of the guys has a job that's temporary, so we can't use his income in establishing a permanent financing situation for a hold. But he's the one with the money. He came with $25,000. And his friend is the one with a permanent job. And so he came with the employment that I could use to qualify for permanent financing. So they joined together as a team. We bought the first property. They both went on title. He brought his money to the closing table. They renovated the property. They both moved forward onto title, so they both are in title on the property, but the one with the job was the one we put on the loan. The other one does not have the loan in his name, but he still has the ownership in the property. And so it was a solution around which we could get to where, if you have one person that's not financeable and one person that is, but that person might have money or they might have the ability to renovate or do something, there's a reason there's a team. You can get around those title issues. You don't have to do all this excise tax and all this other stuff later. Limited funds. On a traditional loan, non-owner, the seller can pay up to 2% closing costs. On this program, you can ask the seller to pay whatever you want. And, depending on who the seller is, they may or may not do it for you, but you can ask. And I've seen where all the closing costs are covered in transactions by the seller. And so, that even makes it a little sweeter deal on the front going in. The agent can do credits. If you're a real estate agent, I have real estate agents that use this strategy for themselves all the time. Down payment can be returned with successful payoff of the fund and the initial loan. So again, we're doing the collateral holdback. You get your funds returned to you. And you're allowed to put a loan on that gives you maximum leverage. Non-traditional funds to close. All the normal things are okay, but there's none of this agonizing sourcing of funds that we go through on the traditional side. People, you can have gifts from friends, family, relatives. Your 401k can be accessed. You can borrow money. We know of a secured signature loan that you can get right now that is a very nice deal where traditional lending wouldn't allow you, even if you're a very creditworthy borrower, to go out and just get a signature loan to do the down payment. We will allow that on step 1 of this particular program. We don't care. It's okay as long as the payments on that loan are calculated into the second phase. Yes?
Can you back up and give us an example of what might be an agent credit or an agent contribution? Can you give us an example?
Just your commission.
Just the commission.
Yeah, your commission you can contribute. Well, and if you love your client enough, yeah, I don't think that would. No, typically that is done if it's on your own transaction. Yeah, normally your agent does want to get paid their traditional fee. Let's see here. Okay, secured borrowed funds. All right. Ownership. We can accommodate ownership for LLCs, corporations, or personal. The side note to that is don't ever write your purchase and sales up in an LLC or a corporation. Always write them up as a personal transaction because our takeout financing, if it's a hold, is not as advantageous from an interest rate perspective for people who want to hold their properties in an LLC. And there is lots of restrictions on that.
You can always transfer later.
Well, and that's what people do, is they create that LLC later. So, any questions? Lots of advantages here. More flexibility. One of the things I'm just going to mention as a side note, this also works, you guys, for solving other sorts of problems. We do this kind of financing if, let's say you have somebody who has a property that they have to sell in order to purchase another property, like an owner-occupied situation. We've done this strategy. For example, there was a loan that I had done. I know Eddie's done one where the owners of the property, they had 2 properties, one in Seattle and one in Tacoma that they had for sale. They hadn't sold yet. They had their heart set on an $820,000 estate that they just had to have. I mean, it was the only reason they were selling anything. And it ended up that was going to be taken, it was going to get sold from out from underneath them. And what we ended up doing was cross-collateralizing on the Seattle property and the Tacoma property. We did 100% purchase of the $820,000 property. They put up $48,000, that's all they had liquid, to make the payments on the $820,000. And then when they sold their other properties, we put permanent financing in place for them. And when the appraisal was done on that property, they bought it for $820. The property appraised for $950. They were totally thrilled. I mean, ecstatic. So yeah, the guy was like a fireman, and he wanted his anti-fire trucks. So this is really the breakdown. Get pre-qualified for the takeout financing if it is a buy and hold. You can do buy and sells also, but that's a different strategy, or a different, little different formula. Determine the cost to renovate immediately. Determine the renovated value as quickly as we can with as educated a guess as we can come up with. And if you get us the property address, what we think the renovations are, we can get that within 24 to 48 hours. And then do the math. Does it pencil? As Joe says. If it's an investment property that you're going to hold, we need to be at 70% of the finished value to begin to make our calculations. Okay? And if we're not there, that's okay. You just might have to leave more money in the deal. And then if it's owner-occupied, we go to 75. So we confirm value by doing an appraisal and complete the financing in step 1. Then that loan is generally a short-term loan again, you guys. From, I've seen them as short as 2 weeks, but usually no longer than 4 months, although they can be written to 9 months. Refinance into permanent financing as soon as the project is complete. And you don't have to come to the closing table with more money, because we do have the ability, when doing a rate and term refinance, to roll those closing costs into the loan. So now if you were at 70 to start with, you might be at 72 or 73%, something like that. Into a beautiful, right now the rates are below 4 for investment properties on single family detached. I mean, it's crazy. And that is how you do it. Any questions? They're just really quiet.